All right, testing on YouTube. Looks like we're good. Yeah, that sounds much better. Okay, so happy Wednesday to everybody. Good morning to all. And as always, we're in Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared. That is October 27th, 2021. So as we see our markets making new all-time highs, the question remains, how confident are the bulls continuing to push this market higher as one, we are entering earnings season and we're getting a lot of back and forth volatility from different large market cap names, along with the fact that we're using sort of our technical approach to find good risk to reward ideas and considerations for the market. So as we start today, one thing I want to bring attention to is the S&P ES futures contract, or the E-mini, as most people know it. And inside of this futures contract, which has a very similar sort of structure to the SPY or the SPX, we're simply seeing the market return to a very dominant trend line. This trend line has been in place for approximately the entire year. And if you do draw it back, you do see a bit of additional correlation to significant lows and also back tests of pullbacks. So as we can see, while this isn't necessarily picture perfect or pin-like precision, market has performed a bit of a back test of this area. And what I find interesting about this is, one, we're at all-time highs, so the market certainly had a significant recovery from some of the volatility prior. Two, the momentum has been very strong. We've seen pretty much no short-term signs of weakness, and even on days where we're relatively flat, the market is not even attempting to pivot lower, i.e., we're not really breaking any previous lows, nor are we seeing strong selling pressure on the intraday. But as the market continued higher and as we did breach all-time highs, the idea behind profit taking starts to enter our mind as bulls. Obviously, if you're looking at just trading and you were able to capture some of this upside momentum, having a target on your trade is certainly part of the process. Essentially, you have to take profits at some point. Otherwise, you may as well call yourself a long-term investor. Two, as we see the market coming into this trend line, oftentimes these back tests provides a bit of upside resistance. Basically, the market trying to confirm whether or not this trend is still intact and is still relevant for the technical picture. You can see that we did have a bit of a topside pin bar, basically a short-term reversal signal, and the market may be about ready to take some profits as we are seeing sort of that selling pressure finally step in. More notably, however, for the week, when I look at the SPX and we talk about expected move, the market has gone ahead and tagged the top side of the expected move. Now, we continue to look at this picture in the context of the option market, because ultimately the option market gives us clues as to where the market dictates risk overall. Essentially, if we're within that range, everything is sort of in its happy place. Market doesn't have to do much in the way of hedging or adjusting risk. But if we start to breach, especially if we close significantly above or below these levels, market takes on a bit of a different sort of feel. We get higher volatility events, often range expansion occurs. And that's usually in the form of some sort of multi-day sort of readjustment or reallocation of value inside of the market. But in the short term, when we looked at our expected move this week, you can see that the SPX, I went ahead and marked it at 45.99. we called it about 4,600 just to kind of clarify things. And if you look at the all-time high from yesterday, we're about half a point away from this area. So this continues to be sort of a gauge. If you're looking at weekly options, or you're just looking to kind of see where the market may wish to stall and potentially either return to a midpoint or even to back test something like an expected move low, this is an area to consider. So ultimately, how you decide to profit take on some of your long trades, especially since this market has been giving very clear bullish momentum the past couple of weeks. How you decide to do that is up to you, but there are some short-term signs that we may be about to pull back. And that's finally, after all this momentum is starting to wane. We've obviously seen some of that volume wane inside of the SPY, that decreasing sort of no resistance or no major sell signal yet, but we're seeing sort of that short-term topping action, maybe a bit of profit taking to come. So as we look across the market, what are some other reasons why this may be worth considering? Well, from a purely technical sense, and I'll go ahead and remove these short-term lines, we see that the Nasdaq has tested its all-time highs. And when we look at exact prices here, we're talking about within approximately 6 to 7 cents. So the previous all-time high, at least on the daily candle perspective, was about 382.78. Yesterday, we tagged 382.71, and we did see some pullback occur. So looking at this as simply a range and seeing how the market has responded, both on the channel low, which we know has offered amazing support and resistance for the past couple of basically months, basically the entirety of this year, even starting prior. This channel low has been tested. It has offered a bounce, and the market has done a full 100% range transition on the Nasdaq. So once again, if you are a bull and you are looking to trade this market, this might be an ideal target for most conservative to, I would say, maybe short-term swing type traders. It basically means that we've done the full transition, and outside of the channel highs, which as it forms, we will extend, we simply don't have much in the way of upside targets outside of extensions or projections, basically kind of anticipating where the market may go with the idea that a pullback may occur before that eventually happens. So the Nasdaq overall showing that same sort of signal, i.e. we've hit previous highs. We haven't necessarily breached them, but the Nasdaq has been a bit of a laggard. And what has boosted the Nasdaq recently has been some of the tech earnings. Now, arguably, I'll say tech is sort of an overall sort of description, Tesla being one of our strongest names so far, but this, of course, not being necessarily in the tech sector, just more of a Nasdaq type name. So as we saw, Tesla over the past couple of days breaching the $1 trillion market cap. That was approximately at about 1,036 per share. So Tesla did breach into basically a list of companies that have achieved $1 trillion market caps at some point. A very short list at this current time. Additionally, Tesla did continue much higher. And if we look at just a short-term viewpoint here, we can see that we got close to that 1,100 print before returning to back test approximately 1,000 per share. So plenty of volatility in the space. A lot of people are noting that this move in Tesla is not only very extended, but is also benefited by some of the dynamics of the option market. The idea here is very similar to what we talk about with the SPX. Once you breach the expected move, and specifically if you get within that 2 times extension, regardless of what's causing that demand change or that supply change, the market often kind of breaks apart. You either stay within a relatively normal range, sort of the rubber band normal expansion. You start to stretch that rubber band when you get 2 times out. Usually the ideal situation is that you return back to normal. Your sort of 2 times standard deviation often wishes to return sort of into that relaxed normal state. But if things continue, that's where things break apart. The market often gets extremely volatile at those price levels. One way to do this, of course, is to mark those price levels week to week. We do that with the SPX. There are also studies that can provide this information. I'll just go ahead and show this study very quickly to indicate that, as you see this past week, we were looking at about a $50 expected move. Tesla not only breached that from the close of last week, but extended very much further. We're looking at about a 4 sigma move outside of expected. So very significant breach here. And the market obviously was boosted by this performance. So now, as we shift into some new stocks that have reported their earnings, we're seeing that counter of that behavior. Facebook did come out with its earnings. We saw a little bit of possible attempt to hold major support, something like the 200, which was acting as a previous bounce point prior to earnings. And then, of course, our more impulsive gap down, the earnings reaction itself. And now we're seeing a very high volume breach of the 200-day moving average. So very notable with Facebook, one of our weaker names across the board. And when we look at just the high to low here, should never do it from the top side, should always do it from the bottom side. When we look at high to low, we're looking at bear market territory here. Just kind of taking that previous all-time high to where we sat yesterday near the lows, we're talking about a 20% decline. So Facebook is definitely on the verge of entering quote unquote bear market territory, i.e. it's beyond a correction at this point. It's more of a sort of sentiment change. And markets often will give those signs whenever you lose the 200. So Facebook has been our weakest name. We've been keeping an eye on it as there's been some significant bounces from low to high, but ultimately this stock is starting to break down on the chart. And if we're looking at the weekly, we're testing the 50 period, may be worth considering, but ultimately that's going to take some time to evolve. As I look at the past 3 years, Facebook has had significant drawdowns in the past. What's more notable about this most recent one is that we have yet to see any sort of weekly bounce outside of that previous one on the daily 200. So lots of weakness in this name. That's sort of that push and pull, Tesla providing plenty of bullish momentum that may be on the verge of ending in the short term, i.e. we may see a bit more choppy to price action profit taking in these upper ranges, along with Facebook continuing to sell off. Microsoft reporting earnings as well. We saw that one come into its all-time highs, into its earnings. And even in this current pre-market, we're seeing some continuation. Keep in mind that all of these stocks have expected moves for this earnings week. If you have something like the Thinkorswim platform, you may want to shift back into a think back look to see what the expected move was prior to earnings and simply mark those price levels. Another way to do this is, of course, using the straddle approach, where you're basically buying the call and the put close at the money prior to earnings and kind of seeing what that weekly straddle looks like in regards to the expected move. That gives you an idea of what the earnings was anticipating and some of the IV compression that may occur following especially if earnings and the reaction are in line, i.e. there's no surprises in the expectation. So moving into the rest of the week, we continue to see some high volatility in, I would say, shorter float, maybe some unknown ticker names. There's been a lot of sort of sentiment in regards to the initial high volume runner. And that's, of course, DWAC. Keep in mind that these have been extremely volatile intraday, along with the fact that we do have some structure repair that may be occurring. So if I shift down into just a 30-minute, you can see that as we were breaking out on the first day, we want to note these key levels on the breakouts, along with the fact that on the daily, there is a significant gap from day 1 to day 2. And as we're getting into this range, we may see a bit of, I would say, consolidation or attempts to hold these key levels. Also worth noting the close of the first day. These are very important distinctions between maybe the highest print and also what the market was accepting into that settlement of the first day activity. You, of course, can do this with any of the stocks that have been running. Usually, if they're going to have continuation, you may want to see them hold the previous day high or previous day close, as that continuation pattern often needs to facilitate increasing demand. Otherwise, you may see the market start to quote unquote pivot, and that's when you get either the higher volume sell-offs and or the attempts for consolidation in a upper range. So these are relatively new stocks. They do not have a lot of technical price action for us to evaluate outside of the shorter term up and down trends. But as you dig into these levels, always be considering things like halt prices. You'll note here that as I was digging into BKKT, noting that this halt that occurred here formed a short-term gap in the price. And this area currently is acting as a bit of a consolidation area. Market may try to pivot away from this back to the upside and simply provide that oversold bounce. Of course, if that does break, you want to be looking at previous support levels on the way down, as this stock is one of our weaker performers. So something like this. So all in all, these have been interesting stocks to trade. There's been a lot of profitability. There's also been a lot of pain. But ultimately, this is still a technically driven and supply and demand driven type market, regardless of the hype or the to the moon attitude. Always be respectful of the stock's volatility and ultimately the expectation to the downside. Most of the time, these stocks do see 50+% declines from their all-time highs. So last but not least, we'll take a quick look at the bond market. We're seeing a bit of activity outside of what's been occurring as of late. We haven't taken a deep dive into this very recently, but as I look into TLT, you'll note that yesterday we saw a bit of an increase in some bullish volume, along with sort of a respect of the 200, potential sort of bounce point in this market. And when I look at ZN, I had gone ahead and marked some historical levels back in time, basically previous ranges that were respected for extended weeks, very notable areas of support. Now, the bond market had been selling off prior to this very heavily, but just like most other support and resistance zones, we're looking for moments in time where action may be taken. And when I look at just the 10-year Treasury note futures, we're coming into that key level, and over the past couple of days, we've seen a bit of a reaction. So far, this reaction mimics previous pullbacks, but what's different about this is the level that we are bouncing from. So as we move into this remainder of the week, keep a short eye on something like the 10-year Treasury index And once again, just sort of remember the dynamic here. Tech stocks tend to struggle whenever this is rising and tend to outperform in some degrees whenever this falls very precipitously, usually when it starts to break down through key levels. Another way to sort of perceive this is a bit of a channeled approach. And while this is not necessarily perfect, one could argue this is a bit of a rising wedge overall. You could start to see if you see any significant breaches of these areas. That'll show just that short-term change in that sentiment, along with the respect of horizontal and inflection points. We have a very notable one here. We've gone ahead and tested that a few days prior. So we're just looking to see if this market is ready to pull back down or see something more significant than the steady increase we've been seeing. So that'll, of course, affect what's been performing lately. Financials have been breaching relative and all-time highs. This has been our main sort of sector that performs during rising interest rates. And ultimately, keeping an eye on the yields curve. It's been a while since I've said that, but keeping an eye on the yield curve, that is also starting to sort of enter the news cycle as things are shifting between shorter term and longer term notes and bonds. So financials may see a bit of a pullback, especially if that does start to crack down. Energy has been outperforming as well. That one currently is still sitting at its all-time or relative highs. Keep forgetting this one needs to respect some previous history, but as we've seen, the bullish momentum sort of persists, it grinds higher, and then eventually we see that profit-taking event. We're sort of looking for that to occur and trying to anticipate what price level that may eventually hit. So these sectors are on watch as we see some movement in the 10 and 20-year notes. Also noting that some other key sectors have recovered. They've seen some of the benefit of the bullish momentum. We were looking at industrials for a period of time, basically just coming off the 200. You can see even a back test of this area and then facilitating that bullish push. Once again, always be thinking about upside targets here. Nothing is perfect in this market, but close enough works in horseshoes, hand grenades, and the equities. So always keep that in mind when trading. And finally, with Tesla, this is healthcare. With Tesla, you're going to see some additional volatility return to the discretionary sector. I mean, Tesla has facilitated a lot of this momentum. We've seen some bullish activity in our other key stock, Amazon, but Amazon has gone ahead and given that back prior to its earnings. So always be sort of mindful where money is flowing. Does not mean that the market is going to sell off heavily. We're not really seeing major sectors all pull back at the same time, but the return of sector rotation and the idea that the market may be done with some of those strong momentum sectors, moving into other sectors like healthcare. You'll see over the past 5 days, it's been very strong, about a week and a day, actually. And even recovering some of the constructive nature here, getting back along the weekly 20 and coming out of downtrend resistance. So lots of recovery across the board. Some are positioned better than others. And ultimately be aware that we can see some profit taking in the strong sectors as either weaker, laggard, or correlated sectors to interest rates begin to outperform in the short term. So with that said, that's pretty much all I have for the equities market. As we conclude today, I'll just shift over slightly into some of the crypto activity. We are seeing some potential profit taking, specifically on Bitcoin, near all-time highs. And what makes me sort of say that in the short term is we have some technical structure that has formed over the past couple of sessions. Very notable. And for those who are familiar, you will see this very clearly, the formation of our head and shoulders. So we do have this shoulder, this top side push, and then this lower high, essentially setting up this downtrend, and then the break of the neckline providing some of the downside liquidation. So short term, the trend is starting to basically falter slightly. Very notable in the fact that we've reached all-time highs on a massive daily and weekly uptrend. This move has been very powerful, very impulsive in nature. And with our weekly sort of pin bar or topping action in place and the head and shoulder structure on the daily, expect some additional profit taking to possibly occur. Ultimately, if you're looking for another re-entry into this market, I may consider some short-term trades in these regions. One of the more notable ones, of course, being this major trend line. And as we come to back test this area, see the reaction, see if we can find some sort of bullish reversal structure, and that can provide enough energy to get us back into a bit of an uptrend. Otherwise, as this market pulls back down, we may see this previous chop, basically lots of back and forth, short-term volatility. But what makes this more notable is we had a very strong uptrend. As we're pulling back, previous reaccumulation zones, basically rally, pause, rally, those pause areas act as support. And as we come into it, as we see some confluence of both price and trend line, this will be worth considering for either short-term trades, repositioning if you have taken profit near all-time highs, or even just considering whether this market continues to be bullish. I would sort of hesitate to see this market break this area. And as we've seen, as we've come into this area, this has been sort of that fear component of the market. Also be watching our main moving average. This is the 100 on the daily. And this one has provided some of the best inflection points in previous history. So moving into the rest of the week, might see some volatility here. This also correlates pretty well with what's occurring in the bond market. If the bonds are experiencing a short-term correction back to the upside, interest rates are falling in that time frame, and with risk on assets such as crypto, that is a very significant and notable correlation that has been present for an extended period of time. You'll also note that as bonds have been falling, that has provided some fuel and energy for this massive push to all-time highs. So kind of keep those two markets in the back of your mind. You can look at the correlations between them. And once again, it's not going to be one-to-one, but there are key price levels or inflection points where things shift. And usually you want to see that inflection level hit. You want to see some sort of reaction in the market you're about to trade, and then ultimately set up your trade with the right risk parameters based on what's formed. So with that said, my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Market. Trade safe, and stay tuned tomorrow for a bit more insight into what's to come. We do have additional earnings for the rest of the week. We've already seen Microsoft, Facebook, and Google. Up to bat is Apple. I want to say there's one more notable name, but ultimately we'll discuss that in pre-market prep. And as always, that's going to affect the sentiment for the Nasdaq and maybe the market for the rest of the week. So keep your risk in check, allow for the market to sort of signal those approaches, and then finally keep an eye on markets that you are actively trading or investing in, looking for those correlations to take place. So stay tuned, and we'll talk more tomorrow.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the pre-market prep. I hope everyone's having an amazing morning. I hope you had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How are you doing today?
Good morning, brother. It has been a busy morning.
I know it has. I seen messages from you very early on. The minute I woke up, the
Oh,
first thing on my phone was Norm going to work.
yeah. So, guys, if you, I haven't seen a question on YouTube in a bit, but if you're a member and you're having a problem getting on the website is fine with the exception of the homepage. That goes for PCT as well. So, if you go to any other page, for instance, bearbulltraders.com/chat, you will be able to enter as normal. I think um, one of our protection partners, let's say, to keep the website secure, one of our security partners is having some kind of an issue causing a problem with the homepage. So anyway, um, yeah, everything else
Yeah.
is normal. So
All right, excellent. All right, guys, let's get to it this morning. Go over some of the things we had yesterday on our list, starting with DKNG, which by the way was just brutal. Did not trade clean at all. And oh, hold on, we got to switch to a different ticker here. Let's go back to DKNG. Here we go. It was just not clean at all. I mean, pre-market, we knew that there was definitely some action in it. It had great volume, had a very weird pre-market action starting out. It did get a little bit better towards 8:30, 9 o'clock, but the market open was just not great. It was not clean. A lot of indecision at the open at first. You got this drop with this engulfing pattern, but not a clear continuation, which is tough to trade. So again, and it's just kind of stayed above the VWAP here. The move is big, right? You got some big moves here, 49.50 all the way to almost 50.60. Again, just I couldn't find this to be tradable. So it's just a very tough trade on DKNG here. It eventually drops back down towards the low of the day there. Just tough trade, especially when you have other things like Nvidia. When you have Nvidia trading the way it is, it's just unbelievable, guys. Breaks from the high of the pre-market 240, 239.89 to be exact, and just look at this beautiful breakout. Right before the bell, it does test that level. It gives you a pullback at the open and then just takes off. Incredible breakout here. Beautiful continuation. It does give you a nice pullback here for an entry as well. So if you did missed it here, another pullback here on the 5 minute, and then another continuation, another bull flag type play here as well. So again, just so much happening with Nvidia. This stock has been so strong. If you look at the daily, it's just incredible what's happening with them the last couple of days. So that traded very, very well. Probably one of the better tickers in our watch list yesterday. Here's Facebook, a little bit of some sloppiness at the market open. It was a short the entire day, guys. Held on to this 9 moving average, so it really never could
it's
get
a hell
above
of a
that.
fade.
Yeah,
I
it
saw
was
that when they
clean. Yeah.
popped after their earnings report. I
Hmm.
wondered if that was going to do that. I did not take the trade, but I had a
Right,
feeling
right.
that's the kind of day it was going to have.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't sure it was gonna sell off this much, but the pre-market was it had popped up pretty good, and the
I
pre-market
think it was
already
up
had
like four
gone.
percent pre-market. Yeah.
Yeah, it went down to almost the previous day close, and as you can see here, continued very nicely this morning. So yesterday morning
It broke
against.
it dumped below the 200 on the daily there. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, not looking good for them this morning. They have a little bit of volume, pretty much flat right now, but it will be interesting to keep an eye on them for the next couple of days. Here's AMD as well, traded very well. Let's look at AMD here. Let's get back to our 5 minute. Here we go. There we go. What the one thing I did not like about AMD, this pullback was very deep, right below the VWAP. So that's a little concerning. But it does recover nicely. You got this push up above the VWAP, and just look at this beautiful. I don't know if you want to call this an ABCD pattern. Again, this pullback is really aggressive. But this stock does take off, does break the high of the day here, and gives you a pretty decent continuation. Not great, but pretty decent. You somewhat have a double or top here. Again, not too defined. And very early on, I usually like to watch these after 11, right? They tend to work out better at that time, but it does drop down nicely. If you're able to catch this, you had a pretty good move there as well. And can we talk enough about Tesla? I mean, this thing is just incredible. Yesterday, guys, I mean, it just breaks out of here after having a monster day the previous day. Does break out and hits. Did it hit 1095? Right, 1095 was the high here. Just incredible run. Pretty tough at the open for open range breakup, right? You had to survive this pullback, but a beautiful continuation here, and you can see there how nicely that ran. Obviously, very, very toppy, guys. If you look at the daily, this thing is extended. So you did get a drop yesterday, right? Couldn't hold as it did the previous day, right? Did drop here. Still strong, still strong. We're still up almost 2% this morning with 608,000. So again, still on a very nice strong uptrend here, but you can see this push here was not going to hold after such a big move. I'm sure it's a lot of people taking some profits off the table there. All right, cool. Let's head over to our community. Well, not community announcements, but let's head over to the overall market news and information.
Yeah, we just had durable goods core capital goods orders come out, factory orders. That all was at 8:30. I have not had a chance to look at those numbers yet, but they seem to markets popping a little bit. I don't know that it's that or anything else. We've had so many earnings come out that can do it. So just a strong, heavy earnings week going on. SPY all-time highs right up against them. So
yeah, we'll see where high goes. But again, it has been very interesting. Obviously, let's take a look at this amazing gappers list this morning.
Yeah, I will point out a ticker that's not on our gappers and won't show up, even though it started ramping a few minutes ago, and it's lower float, I believe, lower price as well. That's KAVL. I believe they just tobacco company, vaping company, I believe, just got some FDA news, and I saw that pop up, so I thought I'd mention it. It's been running for the last 20 minutes.
Very nice, very nice. This seems a little bit high for you, because I know you like things really under 5. This is around 6.5 here. So it seems a little bit high for your taste, but we'll put it on the list here. 16 million, up 121,000. I mean, this thing is on the move, guys. Looking good. Gappers list is huge this morning, guys. We'll do the best we can. We'll look at the first top 5 on both ends. I know there's going to be some tickers that you guys have that look amazing. Let's look for stuff that has volume, stuff that's moving nicely in the pre-market. If we can get a great daily on it, great. And if it has a catalyst, even better, right? It's kind of try to get these things in line and have a nice watch list. There's definitely no shortage of tickers to watch this morning as we're looking at this list here. ENPH has previously been on our list. Wow, they're gapping up 18.8, 186,000. They're not easy to trade, but we have traded them in the past, and we've done actually pretty well with them in the past. They were at a lower price. I think it was like $40, man. This thing's now at 200. I remember trading this around $40, not this price range. It did get a little funky once it got into this 190 price target. They're up nicely, guys, 18.5. It seems a bit light on volume for that.
I was just going to say the same thing. I'm staring at the time in sales, and no orders are going through.
Yeah, it seems a little light.
Yeah. So I don't know about this one. It's got a 60-cent spread, which isn't tiny, but on a $205 stock, isn't huge either. It would have to get order flow and consistent order flow. You know, yesterday 2 days ago, Andrew was talking about pulsy order flow. And like it'll just sit with nothing, and then shares will fly through, and then it'll sit with nothing. And those always come off as super dangerous to me. So, I don't know about this one.
I agree, man. I like the gap up this morning. I love what's happening here. Even the actual candles don't look bad, but you can tell it's just too light on the volume.
Just watch that level too.
This is moving. So maybe a possible, guys, if it can get better at the market open. Also, watch out for that spread. Not bad right now for pre-market, but just watch out for that if you're going to take a trade on this one. PHUN this morning, they are up 18.4, 11 million shares traded. Again, the last 2 days have not been fun for these guys, but overall still looking good compared to sitting at $1.25. They're at $5.16, so that's not too bad. Let's look at a bigger time from here. Let's look at the 5-minute on our pre-market action. You got some activity happening here. Not a low flow, but I am going to put them here on the low flow pile. Because you do have to be careful, right? So we'll see how this thing ends up. I think KAVL looks a whole lot better. This is what we like to see in these type of lower flow stocks or riskier stocks. We like to see that nice flow movement that we're getting here on KAVL, 18 million, 123%. That's looking very nice. BBLN this morning. Nope, this is garbage. We'll skip on this one. NVAX this morning, they're up 6%, 155,000. I find this stock to be, difficult to trade. The spread could be a little funky at times. I hope we can find things that are better than this one this morning.
Yeah, we will.
So let's move on to MQ. MQ, no, I don't like the way this pre-market action is right now. It's a little sloppy, and the daily for the most part had a big day yesterday. Not great volume on the daily. And this morning it's just too light. 120 is not enough for what this thing is doing.
Trade well.
Yeah, it does. I never seen this one. It doesn't trade. It doesn't look like it does. Does trade well at all.
It's popped up a couple of times over the last few years on our gappers list, but I've never seen it trade well.
Yeah, so let's skip on that. CAJ, no, nothing happening here. Probably a block trade. You got 600,000, 8,000. But yeah,
that's Japan. Yeah. Don't trade Japanese stocks. They
trade
is this
what it is?
Horribly. It's canon.
Yeah, skip on that one. DWAC, anything going on here? 2 million shares, up 3.7. No, I like KAVL a whole lot better this morning, and even with the volume and the pop, these guys don't trade very good. They're very choppy at times. Just be careful if you're going to be trading this thing. All right, on the gap down list, we're going to stop here. Except I want to look at McDonald's. McDonald's is on here. So did they get any earnings? There's the only time I really play them. So McDonald's earnings, not the best trading ticker, even with earnings, but I'm going to add them on here. We'll keep an eye on these guys. Uber, I see Uber on here this morning, and they are up 2.1, 270.
Uber's got a partnership with Hertz that involves Tesla as well.
You got 3 big names there. That sounds interesting. I definitely want to keep an eye on this. Uber's a little funky. Pre-market, you might not get a whole lot.
A lot of times it doesn't trade. They trade very well, yeah.
So you might not get some good action on this. I like the catalyst. You got some big names involved in this. If it's going to do something at the open, we'll see. Maybe a possible it will bring it down if anything. OCGN, I know favorites for a lot of people. What did it do yesterday? I took it off my list yesterday. Let's see what it did here. It wasn't clean. That's for sure. It definitely wasn't clean. I mean, look at this here. Maybe a scalping opportunity, but outside that, look at this pullback. See, this is what I don't like about this stock. The pullbacks are too aggressive. And then look at this drop. Now, you think you're gonna break out here out of this level, which looks very good, higher lows here, and then just look at this drop from 13 down to what is this, 1150? This is the nonsense I don't like about this OCGN. So, not a fan of this one. I hope we can find something better. All right, let's see what's gapping down this morning. CRTX right now, 1.8 million, down 66%. So taking a huge hit here. Doesn't look like they get a whole lot of volume, but today obviously they're getting incredible volume.
They had some negative news on an Alzheimer's drug that is obviously smoking them this morning.
Oh yeah, they're not doing well, guys. They're not happy. It could be interesting. It is very extended now, guys. So you don't have a bias of this thing collapsing. We've seen stocks do this plenty of times where they get this huge drop and they can rally a little bit, at the market open. So let's see. I do like the drop. I like the volume. Pre-market action is very active in here. Let's see where it goes. Normally, this stock trades very, very bad. You can see here, no volume, very choppy. Daily's horrible, but this drop can change things today. IINN, no, down 45%, 1.1 million. You do not have shares for sure. This looks very, very shady. 5 million shares float. No, we'll skip on this one. Had a crazy day yesterday from 250 to 950. Now we're dropping. This just doesn't smell good at all, guys. Let's go to bucket BKKT. Down 12.2. Short selling restriction. You know what? I like this drop here for an opportunity to close this space here. But we do not have shares for short on this one. So bucket, unfortunately, we're kind of handicapped there. Not sure, maybe a possible, but without shares for sure, I don't see that staying there. Here's Hood this morning. I find this stock very difficult to trade. I think the volume is funky at time. The price action is not as clean. Reminds me a little bit of Coin. Coin is by far even worse to day trade. But this reminds me a little bit of that. Ever since IPO, I don't think it's traded well at all. And you could tell by the daily here how terrible
their
this
earnings
is.
were abysmal too.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to do anything different today with earnings. Earnings was last night, I assume. Yeah, you can see that here. Nice little drop there. Maybe today they could do something. Again, I'm not a big fan of these guys, so I'm going to keep them off. Possible for now. We'll come back. CAN.
I'm gonna call dumpster fire on that one.
If you are, you know what? I'll take it off, man, because I'm looking for a way that I can trade well today.
We've got enough. Don't do it.
But let's get rid of it. I see Bitcoin is taking a bit of a hit here. I see CAN, HUD. I see Mara all in here. They're all down this morning. Mara's down 4.4, 206. I like Mara out of all of these, and this is the one that has ran up pretty decent, right? Look at the daily here. So I like this drop. Pre-market action could be a whole lot better. So I'm only going to put them as a possible. Let's see where that goes today. But again, definitely a lot in the red when it comes to Bitcoin here. I'm going to stop right after this one, guys. We got Riot on there as well. Riot is looking good also on the daily. But I want to look at this one, Space. What is Space up to? What's going on with these guys? I mean, I remember Space was trading so well in the past, and then it's just became garbage to intraday trade. I don't know what happened. It's just nothing good has turned out of it. They're down again 4.1. So they're kind of losing some ground here of the last gap down they had. This could be interesting because we're losing this area here of support that we had at around 1950. So I like that there. Is there any news on Space?
I don't see anything fresh, really. They've got issues, but I didn't see anything specific this morning. Maybe somebody else did.
I like this drop here. I like this drop that they're losing 1950. They've been holding that for a very long time. Well, not a long time, but a couple of weeks here, one or two. And we're dropping it even below the lowest point of this island. So I like that this morning. Pre-market action looks decent, not great. Let's see where that goes today. All right, guys, let's stop here. Again, we have ton. Norm, what do you like this morning?
I'll throw out one more other than this KAVL, and that is BA. BA had earnings. Not doing a whole lot right now, but it's not too uncommon for them pre-market. So that might be something that turns into a decent trade later. We'll see.
Absolutely. And 400,000 for BA is actually pretty decent volume. They're up 1.2. So looking forward to that one, especially with that catalyst. All right, let's take it to the room, guys. Jaguar, we'll start with you. GM, I'm not a big fan of GM. They could be a little funky at times, but this pre-market action does look good. I do like this drop on GM. They got some good volume, 3.1 down 3.5. Are we looking at earnings on GM? What's going on here with GM?
They had the earnings this morning. I have not dug into that.
Okay. Looking good, guys. Today could be a day where you probably can trade GM very successfully. I'm going to put it on here, guys. Great volume. Nice drop in the pre-market so far. Heading down, let's take a look at who we have here. Tesla. Let's see, Tesla this morning up 1.4. Yeah, Tesla is good, guys. I would not be surprised if Tesla starts breaking towards that 1080, 1100 there. I mean, it's in a very strong uptrend on the daily. Tesla's definitely nice this morning. XPEV, you're giving us 2 there. XPEV, no, Tesla's the one to go with today. I don't think even NIO has seen as great days or great action as Tesla has. Even NIO is very light on the volume. So Tesla's what you want to have when it comes to EV. They are just on fire as they continue to break their all-time highs here in great fashion. MU, I don't see anything happening. MU pretty light right now. Not a whole lot of volume, pretty quiet at the moment. And then we have FCX. I like the daily for a possible drop here, but again, the volume is a little bit lighter than what I would like to have on my list, especially this morning with so much going on. DKNG was so trash yesterday, guys. I don't think I'm going to add it to my list today. I mean, they were just not great at the open, right? They got better later, but they were just not great. So pre-market looks worse than yesterday, and just look at their daily. Their daily has just been brutal,
I see no new catalyst. DKNG can be tough to trade even when it is in play. The daily is just flatline down there right now. It's no volume. I just don't see a reason to put that on the list.
Yeah, yeah. The big move yesterday happened on the pre-market and the gap up. At the open, you didn't really get a whole lot of play there, unless you was able to time that one drop from the highs to the lows after in the second half of the day. But outside of that, it was pretty tough. And then compared to everything else, Nvidia, Tesla, you have so many other tickers that trade. It's just amazing. Ford taking a bit of a hit here. Now, this one I won't watch no matter what's happening. I just find this stock so not difficult to trade, but you have to sit such a long time to get 20 cents out of this. I just
Moving
won't
in
watch this
sympathy
one.
with
Yeah.
GM, I believe.
Hmm.
They have earnings tonight. GM reported this morning, I want to say. It was either last night or this morning. I think it was this morning, and we already talked
Yeah,
about
this
that
morning.
one. So I just, yeah, Ford, maybe it's in play tomorrow, but I
Yeah,
don't see it right
yeah.
now.
I'm gonna keep GM, and GM is definitely moving a little bit nicer here. Again, not great, but I do like this pre-market action we're getting here this morning. Let's see if that can transition into the market open. GE, no, nothing going on here. The mouse, I don't see anything fun with GE at the moment. All right, 1088, please. Yes, we'd love to see Tesla go up there. That'd be nice. BE, what's going on with BE? BE this morning? No, that I don't. I don't see what you see here. Right now, the daily, maybe a possible breakout on the daily, right? You kind of got higher lows here, but for the most part, it's very quiet right now in the pre-market, and it doesn't look like they trade very well. Very choppy open yesterday. Yeah, I think we can find some better stuff to trade this morning, Chuck. But if you have space for that one, maybe put it in a secondary or on your list. You can do that. AMD's moving. AMD's got 624,000. We're getting a nice little drop here on AMD. Yesterday we didn't end so well. AMD's interesting. I like the way AMD's moving this morning, so we'll keep that on there. All right, guys. Let's take two more, and then we'll have to wrap it up here. Let's see what's going on here. I lost my spot with all the messages, so we'll look at Microsoft and then Tiva. Wow, I haven't looked at Tiva in a very long time. Microsoft this morning gapping up 1.8, 401,000.
Earnings last night.
Earnings last night, and they did obviously very well here. So earnings last night, look at a nice little pump on the daily. Is this all-time highs? Yes, it is. That could be interesting. I'm gonna put it as a possible. It is in play, guys. Definitely it is. But I have some other tickers up here that I like a little bit better than Microsoft this morning. But it is in play. We just can't watch everything, right? There's so much stuff happening here. We can't watch 10, 20 tickers, right? We'll look at the last one here, Tiva. I'll take some from YouTube, and then we'll go to our community events and announcements. Here's Tiva this morning. They are down 2.4. Yeah, this used to be a fun stock to trade. We had it on our list quite a bit, but I don't know. Something about it had a really rough day yesterday. I don't like the pre-market action on this one. We got some good volume, but outside of that, I just don't think its action right now doesn't beat a lot of the stuff that we have on here on our list. I mean, today I really will watch GM over Tiva, we usually do not say that. Actually, we never say that. GM is horrible, but today I'd rather watch GM than Tiva this morning. Let's take a look over on YouTube, guys. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up. Appreciate it very much. It does help us out a ton here on our channel, so thank you for that. We'll start with Fabrizio. You're giving us Twitter. What is the Bluebird up to? TWTR. Twitter this morning, they are pretty much flat right now. And
they'll be in play today. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, they had earnings.
Yeah, what was the earnings last night or
last night.
So that could be interesting. They're not doing a whole lot right now, but we'll see how that plays out. Because again, just all the noise all these social media platforms have been getting, worth taking a look at. Corey, you're giving us AMD. AMD looks good, guys. Yeah, I like AMD this morning. Not looking too good for them right now. They probably get a drop here. We'll see. ASN, what is that? ASAN.
I'm waiting for it.
Oh no.
No.
No
volume, no gap.
No.
Huge spread.
No. Jordan, no, this is not a good one. We have to pass on that one. It's just nothing's happening here for us to look at. Look at the rest of the stuff we're looking at and compare to that one, and you can see why very clearly why we don't want to watch that one. AMD we have on deck. That's good. Apple. Let's take a look at Apple this morning. They are literally flat, like flat. Nothing happening right now. 507,000, but they're just flat at the moment. Their daily is going to be interesting here in the next couple of days. Hopefully they can get a nice little breakout. but at the moment they're not flat. They're pretty much flat. Has their earnings passed? When is their earnings here? It's in a couple of days. Tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Tomorrow. So let's wait for tomorrow. Let's wait for tomorrow. And actually, no, we're gonna wait for that'll be Friday because this is after hours. So if you're gonna hang out here in the close, you can definitely take advantage of that. But Friday, we'll be looking at Apple for sure. Last one here, KO typically is a horrible intraday trading stock. Amazing stock to invest in day trade. I mean swing trade. You get your dividends and all of that. Amazing to hold for long term. But to intraday trade, I tried doing it. It just does not work. So even with this popular 2.8, their price action, everything is horrible. Their volume is not great. So I won't be watching this one today. All right, guys, thank you. We have a pretty decent list. We're gonna have to chop some stuff off here, but we definitely have enough this morning. Let's go over to our community events and announcements. We had a great session yesterday. Andrew was not able to make his webinar for the open range breakup and breakdown in the 5-minute, but we will reschedule that and we will have that in the future. We're all looking forward to it. But man, we had Brian, we had Mike.
You guys had a party.
We had Peter. It was just a party. It was a party of BBT moderators yesterday. So that was a lot of fun. All right.
And then next week on Tuesday at 8 p.m., we've got Kyle talking about important metrics to journal. Then tonight, 8 p.m., we've got a new guest speaker, Andrew Mineker, in our psychology series, talking about techniques to improve your trading psychology. Should be interesting. Just a reminder, all super chat and super sticker donations generated on YouTube this month will be going to the National Breast Cancer Foundation in honor of all the wonderful women of BBT. If you want to participate in the member trade of the day, trade of the week, take a screenshot of your best trade of the day, post it on Twitter with as much commentary as you can to describe the trade and the strategy. Tag at Bearable Traders, at Mike B_BBT, and at Norm BBT. Also use the hashtags BBT Family. Day trading and stock market. We'll pick a winner each day and announce it in the afternoon in the room and on Twitter. And then all those trades of the day are eligible for trade of the week, which will be voted on by the team over the weekend and revealed on Monday. If you have not been in the chat room and you'd like to give it a shot, you can use the promo code premarket24. I will say we are having a slight issue with our website right now. The one page that is inaccessible is the home page. You can go to any other page on the site, such as bearabletraders.com/chat, and you'll be able to navigate around the site. We are working on it. We'll have it fixed as soon as possible. But if you find that test drive now button, click that, and you sign up for a membership. It is a single payment. You can get a discount if you enter the promo code premarket24. It lasts for 7 days, 5 calendar days, does not recur. You will only be charged once, and you can decide if you want to be a member. And then also, if you want to become an elite member, please, you can use the promo. Sorry, something else I was thinking of. You can use the promo code FALL40. That'll get you 40% off the annual elite membership. Good morning, Kreda. How are you today?
Morning, Norm. I'm great, thanks. Hope you are too.
I'm good, thank you. Been busy with the website stuff, so I'll just hand it right over to you.
Great. So we spoke about self-compassion a little while ago, and it seemed to really resonate with a lot of people, this idea of beating yourself up for making mistakes and how you could have a different approach to addressing your mistakes. So I wanted to talk about a spin-off topic of that, which is perfectionism today. So, and again, because it's Wednesday, we're talking about you, the person, not you, the performer necessarily. So this is just to help anyone who can resonate with this topic of perfectionism. So what is perfectionism? It's this need to be perfect in everything that you do. So really driving yourself to achieve high standards and also believing that this is possible. So it's a personality trait in psychology. So it's something that kind of defines people in general. So if you tend to be a perfectionist, you'll probably find that you approach things across the board with this mindset. And it sounds like something laudable that our society really celebrates, you know, driving towards your goals, all of that. But actually, there's quite a shadow side to it, and it can be quite unhealthy and unhelpful for you as a person if this is a personality trait of yours. And obviously, it's always something that can be worked on, and that's why we're discussing it in this context today. But with perfectionism, I always think of this in job interviews when people ask that question, like, okay, but so what are your faults? And people think that a wonderful response to this is to say they're a perfectionist rather than say, you know, I swear a lot, or I don't turn up to meetings on time, because it's seen to be this positive thing. But really, there's a huge difference between the idea of striving towards your goals and trying to achieve your peak potential and trying to be perfect. And if anyone's familiar with the work of Brené Brown, if you're not, you should definitely check it out. She's great. She's a researcher that studies shame and vulnerability, and she has a great Netflix episode as well, like really good, interesting research that she does. But she distinguishes between these two concepts. And it's really about the motivation behind how you're approaching your goals and behind your idea of striving for peak performance. So someone who is just striving for peak performance and wants to achieve really lofty things, but coming from a positive place, that's okay. If they're starting from neutral and they're wanting to achieve good things, that's fine. But if you're a perfectionist, the motivation behind your need to be perfect is actually coming from a place of lack. So it's actually coming from something in your subconscious where you feel that you're not measuring up, maybe low self-worth, a feeling of inadequacy. And so Brené Brown describes how perfectionism is actually a shield to protect yourself from the experience and the pain of blame or judgment or failure. So rather than just being a positive thing to aspire to, it's something that you're actually using as a shield so that you don't have to deal with the pain of failing or people judging you in a negative light. And so this is how it can be detrimental. So if you are a perfectionist, then you're probably approaching tasks in your life in a specific way. So either you're spending loads of time doing something that should take you a much shorter amount of time. You only take on tasks that you know that you can be absolutely really successful in. So if there's something that you feel that you might only be able to achieve mediocre results in, you possibly avoid it altogether. Some of the other ways that it manifests is that you procrastinate in general. So you put off the actual starting of the task. And you can also hold yourself to really high standards, but you also then hold other people to the same standards. And so when you're applying perfectionism across the board, you can actually be damaging your relationships. So there's a lot of kind of negative outcomes of adopting a perfectionistic mindset. It can also lead to stress and burnout and general lack of happiness in your day-to-day life. So often with perfectionists, they feel like if they don't measure up or if they don't hit that 100%, then that's a sign of complete failure. And so their experience of day to day is that their actual mental well-being and emotional well-being is impacted every time that they don't measure up and meet 100%. And so over time, this can lead to burnout. And actually, the research says that it can even lead to the development of mental illness. So what seems like a very positive trait that people can aspire to demand success of themselves in every area across their life, just be careful that if you're adopting that mindset, that it's not coming from a need to prove yourself or to give yourself validation through your achievements. And as an antidote to this, or as a way of kind of counteracting it, one thing that's really useful to do is to try and challenge yourself to take action before the thing is perfect. And I was on a webinar yesterday with Rachel Rogers from Hello 7. So again, if anyone's not familiar with that, she's an entrepreneur and she coaches other entrepreneurs from marginalized backgrounds. And she coined a really great phrase that I wanted to share with you today, which is the idea of taking ugly action. And I really think that that could be applicable to a lot of people in different realms. So not only in business entrepreneurship, but also even in terms of, relationships, in terms of hobbies, anything like that, any area of your life where you have goals, can you actually just take ugly action? So stop waiting for the thing to be perfect before you actually do it. Start the project, even though it's not, or launch the book even though it's not fully the way you'd like it to be. It could even be as simple as take up the hobby, even though you know that you're going to have to start at the bottom of the ladder and you're not going to be as good as the other people who are doing it. So my challenge for you today is, one, just try and check in to see if this concept is resonating with you. So do you feel like you apply that perfectionistic lens to the things that you're doing? Two, question what the motive is behind it. So is it coming from a positive place of just wanting to achieve, but you're okay if you don't meet 100% perfection? Or do you think that it's actually coming from this sense of wanting to protect yourself from blame or judgment, and maybe stemming from a sense of lack of self-worth in your subconscious? And if it is the latter, then can you actually identify how this is holding you back in whatever area of your life that it's most prominent? So maybe it's your work, could be your relationships, could be your social life even. So try and actually list 3 ways that this is holding you back. And this will just bring your awareness to the idea that this is not a positive trait to hold on to, that it's something that you can shift. And if you shift it, you're going to enjoy your day-to-day experience a lot more. And once you've done that, then identify one way that you could take ugly action and challenge yourself to do that today. So just a little overview of perfectionism and a quick antidote for a way to shift your mindset if you do find that this is resonating with you.
So create a couple of things. First of all, what was the name of the researcher author that you mentioned at the beginning?
Brené Brown.
How do you
she
spell
has
that
written a
first
series
name?
of
Okay,
Brené,
there
so
we
B
go.
or E-N-E / like father in Irish, but an accent in French.
Sure. Okay, perfect. That's first. You hit the nail on the head with me, and a ton of people in the room are giving feedback as to the same. My guess is because trading draws in a bunch of like type A personality, strong personality people, and that perfectionism probably has a high correlation to that in reality. So that's one that I wanted to clear those 2 things up. So awesome topic. Somebody was asking if these are recorded, and we started doing that when Kreda came on. We take these segments out of the pre-market show, and she has her own playlist on YouTube. So if you want to check these out, usually they're available either later that day or the next day. And everybody loves those. So thank you very much. And there was one more thing I was going to say. I can't remember, other than you've done a fantastic job, and the kudos that you're getting in the chat room and from YouTube are just off the charts. So thank you so much, Kreda.
Glad it resonates. See you, Norm.
Take care. You're on mute, brother.
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much, Creator. Let's give it a thumbs up over on YouTube for that amazing information and advice there. So, guys, let's get to it. We are seeing some pretty good action developing in the last couple of minutes here. For example, AMD continues to drop.
Lucid.
BA. Yeah, so Lucid as well. So a couple of people mentioned that also. BA, Norm, this is starting to look pretty nice here as well. Lucid as well. LCID, I looked at this earlier. This is also starting to pop here, guys. So again, we got a lot going on this morning. We're gonna chop this list up to make it fit here. So Uber, I think this was going to be more of a possible. I think it has potential, but we've seen this not do very well. So we're going to bring this down. We're going to keep CRTX. I love this drop, guys, but I think this is also possible given some of the tickers that are moving now and the information we are seeing. CRTX, we can move this down here.
I knew we could be picky this morning. It was a little questionable. We had some things that we didn't, that were hot garbage. We didn't need to put on our list, but it's coming together now.
It's definitely starting to come together now, guys. Space is still on the fence here. We'll keep it here for now, but that's on the fence. But look at BA. Look at the move you're getting there. That's good. Look at even GM is trading well today. We'll keep that on there. Tesla starting to break out some pre-market highs here. Look a nice little pop to 1042. So that's looking good. AMD's dropping here. That's looking nice in the pre-market. And we have LSIT. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The weakest link here is going to be Space. Can we replace Space with something better? CRTX, no. Uber, no. Twitter, not really. McDonald's, no. ENPH, no. I just think I'm going to remove this. I don't think this is tradable. I don't think you can manage your risk on that properly. BKKT, no. I think we're good. Maybe Mara, but it's not doing a whole lot right now. Possible. Maybe Microsoft. But you know what? Let's leave it the way it is. We'll see how we can replace that later, if anything, when the moderators put their list together. And we have KAVL down here, and we have a PHUN as well. KAVA getting a very aggressive pull down right now. So we'll see how that is going to play out. We need some kind of base to form here, head back towards those all-time pre-market highs there as well. PHUN also we need to kind of push up this morning. So all right, we got a pretty good list here. Andre, thank you so much for that donation there. Creator, thank you so much. You're changing my trading for the better. So we're so glad to hear that. Thank you so much for that donation. All donations are going to the charity of the month and matched by Andrew dollar for dollar. So let's get some levels in here, guys. Let's start with the weakest one right now is space. At least on my list, on the main list here, space seems to be the one that we can probably replace for something. And I see some of the moderators putting their list together. We'll go through that, and if we find something better, we can definitely replace space. But I like to drop on space, guys. Losing 1950, losing this the level of support it has in this little island since we had the gap down. So that could be interesting. These guys have not been doing well at all. High of the pre-market, we're sitting at 1923. Right up here, we're slamming level right over there. And above, obviously, tons of levels. You do not need to do anything more. This you're taken care of there. Towards the bottom, what do we have under 1875? Let's take a look here. Under 1875, we have 1808. 1808 is good. Then here, maybe 1606, but 1808 is where it's at right there. We'll keep that one there. We'll see if we can get towards that. But right now, again, the weakest one right now is this one. If you look at BA, this looks amazing, guys. Great pre-market action this morning. We're getting a pop here up 2.1. Right now, we're kind of between the highs and lows of the last two trading days. Previous day close towards the bottom. You're all set as far as levels. You can put down the low of the pre-market around 206.09. And then towards the top above these highs and lows from the highs of the last two trading days, we are looking at, let's see here, let's get a good, here's an amazing level right here, guys. I mean, you cannot miss this one. 216.27, beautiful level here on the day. Look at the area of resistance you had there for about, what, 2.5 weeks there. And then going towards the top here, you have another level as well. Not as big as that 216, but decent enough to mark down here. 218.65, guys. Good one on there as well. I think you're pretty much set right now. Pre-market action is looking very good on BA. And keep in mind, guys, BA is a nicey stock, and it normally does not trade very well, especially in the pre-market. Today, they are definitely doing very decent this morning. And when is their earnings? Did it happen already? Yeah, pre-market earnings this morning. So they're crushing it right now. Hopefully the market open, that action continues. GM, normally we don't have on deck, but today they're looking pretty good in the pre-market. They got great volume, 3.5, 55.32, low of the pre-market. Your high all the way up here at 59.49. So good range this morning towards the bottom here. If we were to lose that 55.32, which looks like we want to come back down and test here, 54.18. And then slightly down here, not great levels, but 53.21 looks decent. Got a nice area of resistance there that cannot become support. We got two levels towards the bottom below that 55.32 that are playing pretty nice. Here is Tesla, guys. Man, this has been so beautiful to watch, trade, whatever you're doing with this. I mean, Tesla's just got it going on right now. High of the pre-market, 1042. Towards the top, you have your all-time highs all the way up 1094-ish, 95 maybe. And then towards the bottom here, highs and lows from the last two trading days. You can mark down the low of the pre-market, slightly below the previous day close, down around 1009, 1009 there. And then you're set. You're pretty much set as far as Tesla. Right now, looking really strong, guys. This thing was flat in the red. Now we're up 1.8 with a beautiful pre-market activity for a possible test of this 1060, 1080. So we'll see where it goes there. AMD taking a little bit of a hit. Peter, any news on AMD? What's going on? I know you're like a main shareholder, or you're like part of the board over there. I don't know. Yeah, they're taking a bit of a drop here, down 1.6. 857,000. Pre-market action looks very, very good. Yesterday did not end so well. Look at this drop here, guys. Like the way that is building there for a possible drop, maybe to 118. We'll see. I don't want to have a short bias, but it's looking rather weak this morning. Another level, 116.41. We'll slam a level there as well. And I think we're pretty much set on AMD here. Here's a Lucid as well, guys, getting a crazy pop this morning. Just started happening here on 9 a.m. this morning. 27.98 high of the pre-market. Also close to the highs from yesterday, right on there as well. If we move over, Oh, AMD had earnings yesterday. Correct. Yep, there you go. They had earnings yesterday. Again, great area of resistance right on here, guys. Highs of the pre-market as well. Let's see if they can break above that 27.98. Trying to test that right now. And that's a great area of resistance, by the way. Look at this. Look how many times we have played around this level. So this area here, it tends to have a very difficult time, but man, this pre-market action looking very, very strong this morning. And then we have another level up here, 28.94 and 29.81. Perfect, guys. We got a beautiful list towards the bottom. Highs and lows from the last 2 trading days. You do not need to do anything else. Brett, NVAX we looked at. I mean, compare NVAX to what we have here. You're probably not going to want to watch that today. I mean, this is the blockbuster list this morning. All right, let's go to our moderators lineup here. And then we'll hand it over to Andrew and Brian trading live this morning. Let's bring let's refine tune this here, resize this, guys. As I am doing this and bringing this over, please make sure to hit that thumbs up over on YouTube. It helps us out a whole lot. And if you're brand new to the channel, consider subscribing. We are live every Monday through Friday. All right, here we go. Here's our lineup. John looking at BA, Microsoft, Tesla, Amen, potential longs, Mara, Baba, potential shorts, Uber, and Apple this morning. Mike is looking at BA, Apple, Tiffany, Microsoft, BA, NVAX. Secondary list, GM and AMD. Demas looking at Apple, AMD, BA, and Microsoft. Thor is looking at Apple, Facebook, GM, and BA this morning. Notice how all of us almost have GM because it is looking good today. Normally, we will not watch that stock. It trades horrible. But today they got a pretty decent pre-market activity. Some IPOs and SPACs coming out today. Quite a bit of SPACs. Look at these tickers, man. They're just wild. And then Peter's looking at AMD, GM, BA, CRTX on the secondary list, Microsoft and Twitter. And Brian is looking at Hood, AMD, BA, Facebook, V, I think is Visa, and then Twitter on Brian's list this morning. Guys, over on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you guys being with us this morning. We know you have options. We are going to continue here with our members in our chat room. If you'd like to try the chat room out, you can. You can get a week access for $24. Pre-market 24 is the code that you can use. And come hang out with us for a week and see what the environment is like and what we are all about. I guarantee you're going to have a great time with our very fun members that we have here on the community. So with that said, guys, we're going to move over to our chat room. Thank you so much over on YouTube. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And tonight we have our psychology webinar at 8 p.m. Mike is going to be hosting Andrew Miniker, and that's going to be a fun one. He's an actual trader himself. He's also has a psychology background as well, so it's going to be a whole lot of fun to get his take. And the way we're doing the webinar is more of an interview type webinar, so you're going to have him face to face. It's going to be pretty nice setup. It's not a PowerPoint presentation. It's going to be a little bit different, but it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Very interactive. Do not miss it. 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight for those elite members. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Or tonight. Take care.